Welcome to Grandpa's Gentle Sleep Stories. If tonight your mind feels a little too busy, a little too awake, you're in the right place. You don't need to quiet your thoughts. You don't need to sort them out. These stories are here to sit beside you while your thinking slowly runs out of steam. So get comfortable. There's nothing to figure out as the story begins. The night has done its part. The lights are dim. The room is quiet. The small sounds of the day have faded into something distant and harmless. Outside, the world has softened into shadows and still air. Inside, your body has already begun to follow that rhythm. Your shoulders sink slightly deeper into the mattress. Your jaw loosens. Your hands rest without gripping anything. Even your breathing has changed, slower, quieter, more even. And yet your mind continues moving, not wildly, not anxiously, just steadily. It carries the same rhythm it had an hour ago, the same pace it held during the afternoon, the same hum that guided you through tasks and conversations and small decisions. The night has slowed. Your body has slowed. But your thoughts have not. You lie still, aware of this difference. It feels subtle, but clear, as if two parts of you are operating on separate clocks. One ticking slower, one maintaining its familiar tempo. A thought forms. It is ordinary. Nothing dramatic. Perhaps a small reminder. A half-finished idea from earlier. A plan that does not need to be solved right now. It passes. Another replaces it. The rhythm continues. There is no emergency here. No alarm. No racing heartbeat. Only motion. Quiet, persistent motion. The night does not rush you. It does not demand that your mind match its pace immediately. It simply remains still, patient and wide. Your breathing continues its steady rise and fall. Inhale, exhale. The space between them lengthens slightly. Your body feels heavier than it did moments ago, as if gravity has gently increased its hold. The mattress supports you completely. The blanket rests evenly across your chest. The air in the room does not change, but inside, your thoughts continue walking in small circles. You may notice how they move from one idea to another without direction. They do not build into arguments. They do not spiral into worry. They simply keep moving, as if motion itself has become a habit. Your mind has been active all day. It has responded. It has calculated. It has planned and adjusted and solved. It does not yet understand that it can slow without losing control. So it continues. Even here in the dark. Another thought drifts through this one about tomorrow. It sketches a small outline, a detail, a sentence you might say, a task that could wait until morning. It lingers, briefly. Then fades. But the fading does not create silence. Another thought follows in its place. The rhythm remains. Your body, meanwhile, continues its quiet descent. Your legs feel heavier. Your neck settles more fully into its support. Even your eyelids, though closed, feel weightier than before. The body knows how to slow. It does not require instruction. It does not need rehearsal. It simply follows the signals of darkness and stillness and warmth. Your mind is catching, but not yet there. The mismatch feels gentle, not alarming. Like two musicians playing in slightly different tempos, neither wrong, just not aligned. You do not try to force alignment. You simply notice it. The night remains unchanged around you. The ceiling above you is steady and unmoving. The walls hold their shape. The faint outline of furniture blends into shadow. Nothing in the room suggests urgency. And still, your thoughts continue their quiet pacing. A small memory returns, something said earlier, something seen, something minor. It reappears without intensity. It does not ask for correction. It simply shows up, as if to confirm it existed, and it dissolves again. Another thought replaces it. The pace is not fast. It is simply consistent. Breathing deepens, slightly once more. The exhale lingers longer than the inhale. The pause after it widens just a fraction. Your body has entered the rhythm of night fully. Now, your mind is still walking, but perhaps the steps are becoming softer. You notice that thoughts do not hold their shape quite as firmly as they did before. They begin forming, then blur at the edges. They start, but do not always finish. The tempo is still there, but it is less defined. Another breath. Inhale. Exhale. The space between thoughts stretches just slightly. Not enough to call silence, but enough to feel different. The mismatch remains, but it is narrowing. You do not need to force it to narrow. The night is wide enough to absorb the extra motion. Your thoughts continue, but they feel lighter now, less purposeful, more like drifting than pacing. A faint image flickers too vague to name. It dissolves before you can focus on it. The mind, still moving, is beginning to lose interest in its own movement. The rhythm softens. The steps slow. Not because you commanded them to, but because there is nothing here that requires speed. Room remains steady. The darkness remains patient. Your breathing remains calm. And slowly, almost without noticing, the gap between one thought and the next grows wider than before. The mismatch is fading. The night continues its quiet work, gently encouraging your thoughts to match its pace, not through force, not through silence, but through steady stillness that does not change, does not hurry, and does not require anything from you at all. And as your thoughts begin to soften their pace, you may start to sense that their momentum did not begin tonight, but earlier in the day, long before the lights were turned off. The slowing did not begin the moment the lights went out. Your mind did not suddenly decide to move faster just because the room became quiet. The motion was already there, long before you lay down. It had been building gently throughout the day, gathering rhythm from small decisions and quiet responsibilities. The day has a pace of its own. It moves you forward, from one task to the next, from one conversation to another, from one small adjustment to the next subtle shift. Even when nothing dramatic happens, the mind remains active, steady, alert. That rhythm does not disappear instantly. It lingers. You may notice how your thoughts still carry fragments of the day's tone. A brief exchange, a plan that formed mid-afternoon, a detail that required attention earlier. None of them urgent now, yet they still hold the echo of motion the mind has been running at a certain speed for hours. It does not yet know how to downshift. Your breathing continues slowly beneath this awareness. Inhale, exhale. The body rests, warm and supported. But inside, the mental tempo continues. Not fast exactly, just sustained. You are not anxious. You are not distressed. Your thoughts simply haven't recognized that the race is over. The day taught them to stay sharp. To notice. To respond. Even quiet moments during the day were often filled with preparation for the next one. The mind rarely received true stillness. It moved forward continuously, even in subtle ways. And now, in the dark, that forward motion keeps rolling. Another small memory surfaces, not emotional, not dramatic, just something ordinary. It drifts through as if completing a loop that began hours ago. Then another thought follows it. The pattern feels familiar. The body remains heavy and calm. The mattress holds you evenly. The blanket rests lightly across your chest. Nothing in the room asks for activity, but your thoughts still carry the hum of earlier. Momentum. The mind is like a wheel that has been spinning all day. When you stop pushing it, it does not halt immediately. It continues turning, gradually losing speed. There is no need to grab it and force it. To stop. It slows on its own. You notice how thoughts now feel slightly less structured than they did earlier. They still appear, but they do not organize themselves into clear plans. They drift in fragments, partial outlines, incomplete sentences. The momentum is still there, but it is thinning. Breathing deepens again without effort. The exhale lingers a little longer. The pause after it feels wider than before. The body has already stepped out of the day's rhythm. The mind is still stepping out. Another thought surfaces about something small tomorrow might hold. It sketches the beginning of a plan, then falters. The outline is softer now, less defined. The wheel continues turning, but more slowly. You do not need to tell it to stop. Night has already removed the fuel. There are no new tasks arriving. No new conversations beginning. No new decisions demanding attention. The environment remains steady and unchanged. The darkness holds its shape. The air does not shift. The world outside continues, quietly, without you, and without fresh input. The mind's momentum naturally begins to weaken. A thought forms halfway, then dissolves before completion. Another tries to rise, but lacks clarity. The mental rhythm that once felt steady now feels uneven, less certain. You lie still, breathing evenly, noticing how the energy that carried you through the day is no longer necessary. Here, the pace that served you earlier has no purpose in this moment. Your body understands this completely. Your muscles remain loose. Your heartbeat steady. Your breathing smooth. Your mind is learning it slowly. There is no punishment in this slowing. No command required. Just gradual unwinding. The echoes of the day grow quieter. Memories lose their brightness. Plans lose their urgency. Wheel continues to spin, but its motion is lighter now, less driven. Another breath moves through you. The exhale stretches gently. The pause afterward feels almost comfortable. Thoughts appear, but they do not accelerate. They drift across awareness like distant traffic heard from far away, present, but no longer immediate. The momentum is fading. You may begin to sense how the night creates a different tempo, altogether slower, wider, less concerned with efficiency or outcome. Your mind is beginning to match it perfectly. Not yet completely, but the difference is smaller than before. Another fragment rises. Half memory from earlier, but it does not hold you. It passes without needing attention. The wheel turns again. Slower still. The day is losing its grip. The rhythm that once felt necessary now feels optional. Breath continues. Inhale. Exhale. The body remains grounded in stillness. The mind's movement feels softer. Less determined. You do not need to interfere. Do not need to analyze the slowing. It is happening naturally. The momentum that carried you through the hours of daylight has no new energy to draw from. And without fresh fuel, it weakens gently. Thoughts stretch out. Gaps widen. The difference between one idea and the next becomes less defined. The hum fades to a murmur. The wheel slows further. The night remains patient, offering no resistance, simply holding steady while your mind gradually releases the rhythm it has carried since morning. And as that rhythm continues to soften, you may begin to notice that what once felt like forward motion is now turning into repetition. Small circles tracing the same quiet patterns again and again. And in that gentle repetition, the mind begins to circle familiar ideas, not because they are urgent, but because momentum has not yet fully dissolved. The slowing has begun, but something still circles. The sharp momentum of the day has softened, yet your thoughts have not completely settled. Instead of moving forward with energy, they begin tracing gentle loops. Not racing, not rushing, just circling. A small plan appears. Tomorrow's outline sketches itself faintly in your awareness. A conversation you might have. A task you will complete. A detail you may adjust. None of it urgent. None of it demanding immediate action. And yet it repeats. The mind traces the same line again, as if confirming it is still there. You lie still, breathing slowly. Your body feels heavy and supported. The night remains quiet around you. Nothing has changed in the room. But inside, your thoughts circle. They do not expand into worry. They do not accelerate. They simply return, gently looping through familiar ideas. Perhaps you notice how planning can feel productive, even when it no longer serves a purpose. The mind revisits a small scenario, not because it must be solved, but because the motion feels familiar. It draws a quiet shape of tomorrow. Then redraws it, then adjusts it slightly. Breath continues beneath this movement. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm of your body contrasts with the circling of your mind. One moves steadily downward into rest. The other sketches faint patterns in the dark. A sentence you might say reappears. You reshape it. It feels complete. And yet it returns once more, almost identical. The circle is gentle. There is no frustration in it. Just repetition. The mind has not fully understood that forward motion is no longer required tonight. Without new input, without new decisions, it begins to rotate around what it already holds. A small image forms of tomorrow morning. It flickers briefly, then fades. Moments later, it returns. Slightly altered. The circling continues. But something about it is softer now. Each loop feels less solid than the one before. You notice how the details blur more quickly. The outline of tomorrow becomes less precise. What once felt like a clear plan now feels like a faint sketch. The circle widens. Breathing deepens again, slow and automatic. Your body sinks further into stillness. The mattress holds you evenly. The blanket rests lightly against your chest. There is no reason to refine these plans, right? Now. Morning will arrive regardless. Yet the mind continues. Its quiet tracing. It sketches. It erases. It sketches. Again, but the lines grow lighter each time. Repetition begins to feel less necessary, more habitual than intentional. You do not need to interrupt it. You do not need to force the circle open. Night is patient enough to allow it to unwind. Naturally, another loop forms, this one about something small and almost insignificant. It repeats, not because it matters deeply, but because it is available. The mind, lacking urgency, circles what is near, but the circle slows. Each pass takes longer. Each detail feels less sharp. Breath flows steadily. The body remains heavy and calm. The room remains unchanged. Nothing in the environment confirms that these plans must be perfected now, and without reinforcement. The circular motion weakens. The sentence that returned 3 times now returns faintly. Incomplete. The outline of tomorrow appears blurred. Like chalk smudged by a soft hand, the circle widens further. Instead of tracing the same small pattern, your thoughts begin to drift away from the center. They do not hold tight to a single idea. They skim past it lightly. The repetition becomes thinner. A faint image of morning appears once more, but this time it feels distant, almost dreamlike. It does not demand clarity. It dissolves before you can examine it. The circle is loosening. The mind is less invested in refining what is already sufficient. You notice how the urge to perfect the plan has faded. The need to ensure every detail feels resolved has softened. Tomorrow does not require your attention, right? Now. The night holds everything in suspension. Breathing slows further. Inhale. Exhale. The pause between breaths widens. Gently, the circling thoughts feel farther away, as if you are observing them from a distance, rather than standing inside them. Another loop begins, but it does not complete itself. It drifts halfway, then fades. The pattern breaks. Silence fills the space where repetition once lived, not permanent. Silence, just a longer pause. The mind tests the circle again, lightly, but it feels unnecessary. It cannot gather the same momentum as before. The repetition weakens. The outlines blur. The circle widens into something softer and less structured. Your body remains deeply at rest. The rhythm of breath steadies. Everything, the room holds its quiet shape, and the small plans that once felt worth tracing now feel complete enough to release. The mind no longer circles tightly. It drifts loosely. The loops unravel into softer fragments. The repetition loses its grip, and as the circular motion unwinds into something gentler and less defined, you begin to notice small spaces opening between thought spaces that do not immediately refill. Spaces that do not require tracing. Spaces that feel wider than before. And within those widening spaces, you may begin to sense that slowing does not require stopping entirely, only allowing more room between one thought and the next. The circles have loosened now. What once repeated in steady loops has begun to thin, leaving behind something softer. Between one thought and the next, there is space. At first, the space is brief, almost unnoticeable. But it is there. A thought forms. It fades. And before another fully arrives, there is a pause. You rest inside that pause without trying to hold it. Your breathing continues steadily beneath everything. Inhale, exhale. The rhythm feels even and unforced. Your body remains heavy and settled, fully supported by the mattress beneath you. The space between thoughts stretches just slightly wider. It does not feel empty in a way that needs filling. It feels neutral, calm, like open air between two distant clouds. Another faint idea drifts in. It brushes lightly against your awareness, then dissolves without urgency. And again, there is space. You may begin to notice that slowing does not require you to stop thinking entirely. It only asks for room. Room between one idea and the next. Room for silence to exist without interruption. The night provides that room easily. Nothing in the environment presses against your attention. The walls remain still. The ceiling does not shift. The air carries no new instructions. The room itself holds a steady quiet. Inside, your thoughts begin to match it. A small fragment appears, perhaps the edge of a plan, perhaps a memory, but it does not stay long. It loses its shape before it can grow. The pause that follows feels longer than before. You do not measure it. You simply experience it. Breath moves slowly through. You inhale, exhale, the pause after the exhale feels slightly wider than the one before it. There is no rush to replace it. The mind seems less interested in filling every gap. Where earlier it would have supplied another thought immediately, now it hesitates. It waits. It allows the silence to linger. The silence does not demand action. It does not feel threatening. It feels steady. You may notice how awareness itself has softened. Instead of focusing sharply on each thought, your attention feels broader and less defined. Thoughts pass through like distant shapes rather than solid objects. Another pause arrives. It stretches. Nothing interrupts it. The slowing feels natural now, not something you are doing, but something that is happening. The body remains deeply at rest. Your shoulders feel warm and heavy. Your legs sink evenly into the mattress. Even your face feels relaxed, free from tension. The space between thoughts grows more comfortable. A faint idea attempts to form, but it feels incomplete. It cannot gather enough clarity to hold your focus. It dissolves almost immediately. Silence follows. The silence is not dramatic. It is quiet and unremarkable. And that is what makes it safe. Your mind no longer feels compelled to create constant movement. It allows stillness to exist without commentary. Another breath flows through you, smooth and easy. The exhale lingers gently. The pause afterward widens again. In that pause, there is no planning. No circling. No reviewing. Just rest. You begin to sense that slowing does not mean eliminating thought entirely. It simply means loosening your grip on it, allowing each idea to come and go without attachment. The spaces between thoughts are becoming the dominant rhythm now. Thoughts appear occasionally, but they are brief and faint. They do not stack on top of one another. They do not build momentum. They pass lightly. And then there is space again. The room remains unchanged around you. The darkness holds steady. The faint outline of objects blends softly into shadow. Nothing demands your awareness. Your breathing anchors everything. Inhale. Exhale. The pattern feels steady and wide. Another pause opens longer than the last. It stretches quietly, without interruption. You rest inside it without trying to extend it. The mind seems content to drift rather than generate. What once felt like continuous motion now feels like gentle spacing. The contrast between body and mind has nearly disappeared. Both move slowly now. A soft image flickers briefly too, vague to name and dissolves before it can take shape. Silence returns. The space widens. The rhythm of night settles deeper around you. You are not trying to slow anything. You are simply allowing. And in allowing, The pauses grow natural and unforced. Another thought brushes past, barely noticeable. It leaves no mark. It fades without effort. Silence follows again. Breath continues, steady and calm. The spaces between thoughts now feel like open fields, wide and quiet. Thoughts are occasional visitors rather than constant residents. You may begin to feel as though awareness itself is drifting inside those open spaces. Not focused, not concentrated, just floating gently. Nothing needs filling. Nothing needs resolving. The pauses hold their shape easily, and as those pauses continue to widen and soften, you begin to sense that your body has already fully embraced this slower rhythm, breathing steadily beneath the quiet, waiting patiently for your mind to follow completely. And as your body continues resting in that steady rhythm, you may notice how naturally it knows how to slow, even before your thoughts fully catch up. Long before your thoughts learn to soften, your body already understood that it did not need instruction. It did not wait for permission. The moment the lights dimmed and the room grew still, your body began adjusting quietly. Muscles that carried you through the day released their grip. Shoulders lowered. Hands loosened. The small, unnoticed tensions dissolved without announcement. Your body knows how to slow. It does not debate the process. It does not rehearse tomorrow. It simply follows the signals of darkness, warmth, and stillness. You can feel it now. The weight of your back against the mattress feels deeper than before. Your legs sink naturally into support. Your neck rests without effort. Even your jaw feels slightly heavier, as though it has let go of holding anything at all. Breathing continues. Steady and calm. Inhale. Exhale. The air moves in gently, then leaves without resistance. The exhale stretches just a little longer than the inhale. The pause that follows feels wide and quiet. Your body has already entered the rhythm of night. The slowing is not dramatic. It is subtle, gradual, like the dimming of a lamp rather than the flipping of a switch. Your heartbeat feels even and steady. There is no urgency behind it, no signal of readiness. Only quiet continuation. Meanwhile, your thoughts still drift occasionally, but they no longer carry momentum. They appear like faint echoes rather than active conversations. The body leads. Another breath moves through you. The rise of your chest feels softer now. The fall feels heavier, as though gravity gently assists the motion. You do not control this rhythm. It happens naturally. Your shoulders sink a fraction deeper into the mattress. The warmth beneath the blanket feels steady and constant. The air against your skin feels still. The body has surrendered completely to rest. You may notice how comfortable stillness feels now. There is no impulse to shift position. No need to adjust your weight. Everything feels settled, as if your body has found its exact resting place. Breathing continues. Inhale. Exhale. The exhale lingers longer than before. The pause afterward feels unhurried. Thoughts may flicker briefly, but they are quieter now. They do not compete with the rhythm of your body. They pass through softly, like distant sounds that do not demand attention. The body's calm spreads gently upward. Your face relaxes further. Your eyelids feel heavier. Even your forehead smooths slightly. Free from effort. There is nothing to hold, nothing to prepare, nothing to manage. The body understands this without explanation. Your breathing deepens subtly again. It feels fuller, rounder, more complete. Each inhale fills your lungs slowly. Each exhale releases completely. The mind, Noticing this steady pattern begins to mirror it. Another thought appears, faint and incomplete. It tries to gather clarity, but it cannot hold shape. It dissolves before it finishes forming. The body remains steady. The mattress supports you evenly. The blanket rests lightly across your chest. The air in the room does not change. You begin to feel how the body's rhythm anchors everything. Even if thoughts drift through, they do not disrupt the steady rise and fall of breath. The slowing feels inevitable now. Not forced. Not engineered. Just natural. Your muscles remain loose and warm. Your arms rest heavily at your sides. Your legs feel comfortably still. There is no tension stored anywhere that asks to be released. Breathing becomes the quiet center of the night. Inhale. Exhale. Each cycle blends into the next without effort. The body does not question this pattern. It trusts it completely. And gradually, your mind trusts it too. Another faint impression passes through awareness. It does not pull you in. It does not demand analysis. It feels light and distant. Silence follows. The body remains deeply at rest. The rhythm continues unchanged. You may begin to feel as though your physical form belongs more to the mattress than to you. The weight feels evenly distributed, fully supported, almost indistinguishable from the surface beneath you. There is no separation between you and the stillness around you. Breath continues. Slow. Even. Complete. The mind has nearly matched this pace now. Thoughts are rare and soft. They appear as fragments rather than full ideas. The body has led the way, without effort. Without instruction. Without command. It simply followed its own understanding of night. And now, as breath anchors you in this steady rhythm and your muscles remain fully relaxed, you begin to notice that thoughts no longer require following at all. They can move freely without your participation, drifting past like faint shadows across a dark and quiet sky. And as those faint shadows drift by without pulling you along, you may begin to sense that you no longer need to follow each thought that appears. The slowing has become familiar now. Your body rests fully, breathing in its quiet rhythm. The mattress supports you evenly. The room remains unchanged, still, dim, patient. Nothing demanding response. And yet, thoughts still move. They do not rush the way they once did. They do not circle tightly or carry the momentum of the day. They simply pass through, faint and loosely formed. The difference now is subtle but important. You are no longer following them. Earlier, each thought felt like a path to walk down, a sentence to complete, a detail to refine. Now, thoughts appear and drift away without inviting your participation. A faint image rises, perhaps tomorrow morning, perhaps something from earlier today. It hovers lightly in your awareness. Beneath this quiet shift, inhale, exhale, the pause after the exhale widens gently, another thought appears, softer, then. It simply exists for a moment. You let it remain incomplete, it fades, the mind seems less invested in building continuity. It does not insist on connecting one idea to the next. Thoughts are no longer linked in chains. Fully surrendered to gravity, your shoulders do not tighten. Your jaw remains loose. Your breathing anchors everything in a steady rhythm. The thoughts continue, but they are lighter now, more transparent. You notice them the way you might notice distant sounds, present, but not engaging. Another faint fragment passes by. A word without context. An image without detail. You do not reach for it. It slips away. The night holds steady around you. The darkness does not change. The air does not shift. There are no new instructions entering your awareness. Without fresh input. The mind has less material to shape. And without your participation, thoughts lose their weight. Breath flows evenly. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm feels smooth and unbroken. A soft flicker of memory drifts into view, but it feels almost dreamlike, now edges blurred, colors muted. It does not feel like something to analyze. It passes through quietly. You may begin to sense how effortless this has become. You are not pushing thoughts away. You are not replacing them with anything else. You are simply allowing them to move, without attachment. The space between thoughts grows wider, and when thoughts do appear, they are brief. The mind no longer insists on continuity. It no longer constructs full sequences. It no longer revisits details with precision. It drifts. Another. Fragment surfaces barely noticeable. It hovers for a moment, then dissolves before it fully forms. Silence follows. Breathing continues. The body remains deeply at rest. You feel less like a thinker and more like an observer of fate. Movement passing through a wide field. Nothing needs your involvement. Nothing requires completion. The night does not demand clarity. It simply holds everything gently. Another thought begins to form, but it feels distant, almost like the beginning of a dream rather than conscious planning. It flickers briefly and then fades into softness. The slowing feels complete now. Thoughts are no longer something you inhabit. They are something that pass. Breath anchors you again. Inhale. Exhale. The pause stretches. You rest comfortably inside that pause. Even awareness feels softer, less defined, as if your attention has widened and thinned at the same time. Thoughts continue moving somewhere in the background, but they do not rise to the surface with clarity. You no longer track them. You no longer measure their pace. You allow them to move freely, without needing to direct them. The body remains still. The room remains quiet. The night continues evenly. Another faint image drifts by, too vague to name. It does not linger. It blends into the surrounding darkness. Silence returns. The rhythm of breath feels deeper, slower. Your chest rises gently. Your chest falls. There is no urgency anywhere. The need to follow thoughts has dissolved completely. They may continue drifting in some distant layer of awareness, but they do not pull you along. You remain here, resting inside steady breathing and quiet weight. The mind, once so active and structured, now feels like a distant current flowing without shape. And as that current softens further, as thoughts grow lighter and less defined, you begin to sense that their speed is no longer speed at all. It is turning into something slower, softer, almost like a drift toward dream. And in that gentle drift, the quickness that once carried your thoughts begins to blur into something slower and less structured. The quickness is gone now. What once felt like movement has become something softer. Thoughts no longer carry edges. They do not begin clearly or end with intention. They appear halfway formed and dissolve before they can gather weight. Your breathing continues its slow and steady rhythm beneath everything. Inhale. Exhale. The pause between them feels wide and natural. The mind no longer races. It does not circle. It does not rehearse. Instead, it drifts. A faint image rises too soft to name. It feels less like a thought and more like the beginning of a dream. The colors are muted. The outline. Incomplete. You do not follow it. It fades on its own. Another impression flickers into awareness. A sound without source. A shape without detail. It does not connect to anything before it. It stands alone, brief and fragile. The speed that once carried your thoughts through the day has dissolved into this drifting motion. There is no urgency left. Your body remains deeply still. The mattress holds you evenly. The blanket rests gently across your chest. Even the sensation of your limbs feels distant, softened by heaviness. Breath continues. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm anchors you without effort. Thoughts appear less frequently now, and when they do, they feel detached from intention. They are not plans, not memories, not even clear ideas. They are fragments, a faint hallway, a distant voice, color without context. They flicker and vanish. You may begin to notice how awareness itself feels lighter, as though it is loosening its focus. The sharpness of conscious thought is fading into something broader and less defined. The night remains unchanged around you. The air is still, the darkness steady, but inside, the quality of experience is shifting. The drift deepens. Another soft image rises. It lingers slightly longer this time, but not because you hold it. It lingers because it lacks structure. It floats without direction. Then it dissolves. Breathing slows further, almost imperceptibly. The exhale stretches longer than before. The pause afterward feels vast and gentle. There is no need to measure it. No need to notice it clearly. You are no longer observing each thought. You are resting beneath them. The mind, once precise and active, now moves in impressions rather than sentences. It does not organize. It does not analyze. It drifts. A faint sensation of movement appears, as though you are walking somewhere undefined. But there are no details, no destination. It fades before it can become vivid. Silence returns. Breath continues. Your body feels almost indistinguishable from the mattress now. The weight is even and complete. The boundary between you and the surface beneath you feels softened. Another flicker appears, a fragment of sound, perhaps laughter, perhaps wind. It carries no meaning. It dissolves immediately. The drift feels steady now, not something that begins and ends, but something continuous. Thoughts no longer feel like yours in the same way. They feel like passing shapes moving through a wide, quiet space. There is no need to follow them, no need to understand them. They are softer then. Understanding. Your breathing anchors everything. Inhale. Exhale. The pause stretches longer than you. Realize. The distinction between waking thought and dreamlike impression begins to blur. You may not know when one becomes the other. The transition is gradual, and without announcement. Another faint image appears. A field, perhaps, or a shadow, but it lacks clarity. It feels weightless. Drifts away. The quickness is completely gone now. In its place is a gentle, floating awareness. The night carries you further without effort, without intention, without resistance. Breath continues. Slow. Even. Unmanaged. You are no longer aware of trying to sleep. No longer aware of slowing thoughts. There is only this steady drift. Final fragment rises, a word without context. It lingers briefly, then fades into softness. The space that follows feels wider than any before it. Silence expands gently. The mind, no. Longer forms clear shapes. It hovers. It softens. It blends. Your body remains deeply at rest, anchored in steady breathing and quiet warmth. The drift deepens further, and as awareness grows lighter and less defined, the difference between drifting and dreaming becomes nearly impossible to notice. And in that barely noticeable shift, the final traces of structured thought begin to dissolve into the quiet that has been waiting all along. There is no clear arrival point, no sudden stillness, no moment where a final thought announces its departure. Instead, there is this gradual thinning. What once felt like drifting now feels even lighter than drift. Thoughts do not appear as full shapes anymore. They are barely impressions, subtle shifts in awareness that fade before they can be recognized fully. Your breathing continues its steady rhythm beneath everything. Inhale. Exhale. Pause stretches longer than you notice. Your body remains completely at rest. The weight feels natural now, no longer something you observe. The mattress supports you so fully that you feel less like a body resting on a surface and more like something floating in quiet. Darkness. The night has taken over the work. Earlier, there was motion, then circling, then slowing, then drifting. Now, there is simply quiet continuation. A faint image flickers, too soft to hold. It dissolves before you can name it. Another breath moves through you. The exhale lingers gently. The pause afterward feels open and vast. There is no effort left anywhere. The mind does not try to form complete thoughts. It does not rehearse tomorrow. It does not revisit the day. It does not even drift intentionally. It simply softens. Awareness itself feels blurred at the edges. You may notice that it is harder to distinguish between what is a thought and what is the beginning of a dream. The line between them has thinned almost completely. A quiet impression arises, perhaps a color, perhaps a sensation, but it carries no story. It floats gently and disappears. The silence that follows is longer than before. Breath continues. Inhale. Exhale. Your chest rises slowly beneath the blanket. It falls without resistance. The rhythm is unbroken, steady and wide. There is no monitoring. No observing. No measuring of progress. The quiet has arrived on its own. It does not need to be maintained. It does not need protection. It simply exists. Room remains unchanged around you, but it feels distant now. The sense of walls, ceiling, furniture, all of it fades into the background of awareness. What remains is softness and breath. Another faint fragment appears, barely noticeable. It does not gather detail. It dissolves before you can consider it. Silence follows again. The pauses between breaths feel larger than the breaths themselves. Time feels less defined. There is no sense of waiting. No sense of before or after. Just continuation. The body feels warm and supported, almost indistinguishable from the surface beneath it. Your arms, your legs, your shoulders, all of them feel merged with stillness. Thoughts, if they appear at all, feel like distant ripples on a wide and quiet surface. They do not disturb anything. They do not demand anything. They pass unnoticed. Breath continues, slow and steady. Inhale. Exhale. Pause stretches once. More. Awareness softens further. The distinction between listening and dreaming becomes unclear. You may feel as though you are drifting through impressions that do not belong to structured thought at all. A shadow of an image appears and fades. Silence returns. The night continues its quiet work without asking anything from you. Dot, there is nothing left to release, nothing left to solve, nothing left to slow. Dot, the slowing is complete. The quickness that once carried your thoughts has fully dissolved into something softer than intention, something lighter than awareness. Breathing anchors. You gently dot the rise, the fall, the pause. Dot, each cycle blends into the next without edges. Your mind no longer moves in sentences or fragments. It moves in softness, in faint impressions that do not linger. The quiet is not traumatic. Dot, it is simple, and it is enough. Another breath flows through you. The exhale lingers. The pause widens. There is no effort in holding. Stillness. Stillness holds you. The night does not rush this moment. Dot, it does not announce sleep. Dot, it simply continues. Thoughts have thinned to transparency. Awareness feels distant and light, like a candle flame growing softer without flickering out abruptly. There is no final thought to notice. Dot, no final shift to observe. Only this gentle continuation into something quieter than thinking, softer than drifting, calmer than intention. Breath remains steady. Dot, inhale. Dot, exhale. The pause opens wide, and within that wide and effortless quiet, everything settles naturally, without force, without awareness, without needing to be named at all.